Welcome, gamers, to this short series of Nemesis Lockdown. Nemesis Lockdown is a game that is inspired by like the Alien-type movies where aliens are hunting you as you try to secure yourself or escape from... Well, actually, the original Nemesis was from a spaceship. We're now actually on a base, and we've now got to try to sort of get some safety on a base. Essentially is the way that we sort of play this game. Very, very cool game, very cool adaptation from the board game. It's quite interesting to sort of see the way that the game mechanics work from the board game, and it's very faithfully reproduced here in this particular game, but it doesn't look like the board game. So, and that's actually something I struggled with, to be honest, because it's certain aspects of it are there if you go hunting. So in this series I'll try to explain what goes on, how it does work, and also where you can find the information that that does make it difficult to get into the game at this point in time. This is going to be an early access game. I'm playing with a version that's before early access, so this is actually there's going to be a lot of changes, I would think, over time. There's a fair few things that I think need to be changed in the game to make it enjoyable for players, and I'll go through those as well. So, as I say, early access, so I like where it is at this stage. I'm excited by what I'm seeing. I really think that it's very, very solid game mechanics from the actual board game, and reproduce in an interesting way here for the actual PC game. Let's just get started, and I'll do a few starts so you can get a bit of a feel for how things actually do work. So when we click on play, it's designed as a multiplayer game, and so if there's anyone playing, there'll be like a server list in through here. Multiplayer is set up in through this side where you actually go and create a server. I've tried creating one, but it actually hangs for me. I haven't been able to create a server, so I'm guessing that I have seen people actually in the server list though. So there's certainly been people that have been able to set up a server. I've only tried it once and it didn't work. And unfortunately, with the game the way it is at the moment as well, if it fails, you can't bow out of it, and then it's still running somewhere in memory, and I can't find it in my processes or anything like that. So I've got to restart Steam to then have it then to get rid of itself so I can then start up again. It's been quite frustrating, I've got to say, in that sense, just from a technical point of view. But as I say, it's beta, it's early access, so those things will then be fixed. One thing I don't know about if it changes from in-game, or like once you've actually set up your server, whether you can password protect it or not. I just don't know if that's a thing or not. I don't think we can see. We've got the server, the owner name, the player number, the round time, the status, but there's no indication of something that is showing that it's actually a private server. And so I think that would be something that I would be expecting in this game. If you want to be playing with family and friends, the last thing you want is some rando coming in and randomly joining your game. You do want to sort of try to control that. So I don't know if that's on the plans, but I would definitely be wanting something like that sort of protection if I was going to be playing the game. The other thing that's sort of that I wish that this thing actually had a few things. Wish it would have a hot seat mode so that you can play the game from a single computer. And loosely related to that as well, I would love to have bots be able to play some of the other human characters in the game as well, so you can play a multiplayer game but just against bots, so you don't have to be finding players to then go and play the actual game itself. I mean, it's designed as a multiplayer game, but the game also, and the board game as well, actually does have a solo run that you can actually play it as a one-player game, and so it can be played anywhere between 1 and 5 players. So it's very, very interesting and very good the way that one does work. And so I'm going to set up a few different games of this, and I'll just quickly go through what does go on here. So I'll start a solo game. Now the game will present you with objectives like wake up call or unconventional medicine. These are randomly selected, and you get to choose these halfway through the game which one you want to go for. And then you get to choose a character, and again there's about 6 different ones here. We've got a janitor and a xenobiologist. Let's just start another session and see what other choices we get. So here's another set of objectives: discover all the intruder weaknesses, send a signal, and discover all the contingencies. This is a code breaker one. And then we'll have a look and see who else we actually have. So we've got ourselves, in this case, we've got the xenobiologist again, but now we've got a lab rat. So we've got different characters. There's about 6 or 7 of them, I think. And you just have to. Unfortunately, you're running out of time. If it gets down to the bottom here, it'll just pick one for you. Just choose lab rat. We'll do another run. Another set. I think we'll do this one here, this egg sample, so we'll sort of aim for that one. We've also got send signal or explore rooms. This goes way, way too fast. I wish you could actually pause that. And similarly with this, they shouldn't be under this sort of time pressure playing like this. So we've got a survivor or a hacker. I'll go the survivor in this case. So we'll actually choose this character.
Whatever.
And there we go, loading screen. So here she is, waking up. Doesn't know the layout of the base that she's in, except for a few rooms. And so what we find through here, I'll just start to go through the different mechanics and what we sort of see on the screen. So the objectives are what we saw there at the front. We've got the egg sample. So find an intruder's egg and then lock yourself in the isolation room, or find the intruder's egg and then escape by a CSS. So it's not a style sheeting. It's not style sheeting for websites. This is actually I forget what they're called. Anyway, we'll be able to see what they are in just a minute. Now, if we actually start playing as a survivor, we start off in the isolation room, which is actually what we're sort of seeing at the top there. So we're actually in the isolation room right now, but we don't have the intruder's egg. And so, as I said at the start, it's like alien monsters are hunting you through this base, and you're also then trying to find things that you can do. So the only thing that your job is to find in this case with the egg sample objective is to get the egg and then either lock yourself in this room or escape by a special sort of like escape pod. There's another objective in through there, no stone unturned. So we can either do that or send a signal, but we have to then explore every single room in the base. So let's have a look and see what's going on with the actual base itself. If I press the M key or come down and press map, by the way, sometimes the M key doesn't work. But you can tend to always sort of click on this map. Sometimes you can't close things or open things. But generally, if when you've even got events coming up, you can just come down and just click on the map key and it will then open up. So we'll have a quick look and see what's going on. Now, a lot of this stuff is randomly generated and similarly in the board game. Now, one thing we don't usually get to see, I think in the board game, it's pretty much just this section in through here that is the actual board. What this area over here is just showing how the power is actually currently working. So it tends to be when you start the game, it sort of randomly chooses what will be powered and what won't be powered. This tends to be sort of like two sections powered and two that aren't powered. And so section 1 of the base is up through here. Section 2, which you go down some stairs or through an elevator. So these are 3 stories essentially. Section 2 is the group that's directly underneath that one. You can then go downstairs and you end up basically back into section 3, which is it's the deeper of the sections. The top section has got like a rover. I don't actually know what that does, to be honest. And so this is the map area, and I can sort of zoom in into different areas of the actual map and sort of just right click and just sort of move things around to sort of see what's going on in the different areas. Off to the side here, you do sort of then sort of see this power generation. So this isn't, you don't go to any of these. It's just the way that the power is then sort of operating. So section 2 is under power, and the elevator can also then be used to go from the lower level to the top level if you do need that there. Over through the side through here, what we have is we've got like the different sorts of rooms, like in through here. We know some of them, and they show up in here with a blue marker. So the isolation room is where we are. And so S is the category for S just essentially means that it's a static room. It's a room that never ever changes. And we've got a few of these. We've got like the alert room is always there. The repository is always there as well. And these all have different sorts of things. Like the repository allows us to craft equipment. The alert room allows us to, if we have a look at the alert room up through here, we can actually look at the contingencies. So I'll explain about what contingencies are as we get into it. Essentially, well, actually I won't do it yet. I'll explain. There's so much to explain in this game. That's an indicator that there's power into this room here. But if I go to the repository, for example, and have a look at, in fact, even with the backup power supply, the power is off. So I can actually go to this location and restore power from using the backup power source. And if I go and click on, oops, it's a bit clunky doing this one. If I go to restore power through here, it then brings up a card, and the game would then have the card to explain what you do with it in each of these different rooms. So restore power. And so restore power in 2 sections with the highest energy priority, so 1 and 2. Then start the backup power and change. This is the one typo. I haven't seen any other typos in the game there, except that should be change the energy priority. So we can actually sort of change the priority once we get to this room if we want to be sort of focusing on power. And we really have a lot of flexibility with what we do in the base. So we can sort of try to think, okay, well, how am I going to achieve the objective of, for example, finding the eggs? Do I need power in a certain area? Because power helps you with your combat and helps you with all sorts of other things as well. So having powered sections can be useful unless you find a torch. So, and the game, as I say, the randomization in the game is really quite cool the way it works. It doesn't feel like it's random, but every time you play it, it's completely different. It's so different every time you play. So we've got requirements. You need to have enough cards to play it. You can't be in combat, and the room can't be damaged. So we don't know until we get there if the room has actually got some damage or not. So the result would be increase facility energy level by 2 powered sections, change the section's energy priority, and turn on the backup power. It will slow down the power loss in sections. So there's different power loss across the actual game itself, and we can sort of see down through here. This is the power sources that we actually see from this particular side. Now we have different indicators as well, like where we can see there's like the room type. This is a technical room type. These don't actually have a type in through here. We've got all these other sorts of rooms in through this side as well. That like we've got an archive somewhere, and whenever I hover over that, it's going to be somewhere in these bottom 2 sections. So the archive is going to be, it could be right next to where we are in any one of the 3 that we're looking at in through this side. But if we're trying to find the egg, like let's just say we treat that as the example, we're going to need to try to figure out where the nest is. And so the nest can also be in any of those sections. So we've got like 5 in the top section. In fact, you can see there anything with a number 1, like the room category 1, is going to be in one of these locations. Room category 2 is different. And so these are the CSSs that we were looking at there before, the cargo sending systems. So there's going to be a cargo system sending somewhere in one of these other ones that didn't highlight in room number 1. So the room number 1 will still, there could be another cargo, there could be cargo sending system A somewhere in that first group of buildings. That's number 2 in through there, number 2. The cave entrance is also going to be in a number 1 area. Contaminated room is going to be somewhere in number 2s, and so on and so forth. And each of these rooms have got like a different way of actually interacting. So the cooling system, if we could find that one does actually have a computer on board, it's like there's a computer in the room. We don't know what sort of items it will actually have, and we can then initiate the self-destruct, for example, of the actual base itself. So if we did that one through here, we would need to have enough cards to pay for it. I'll explain what that is in just a minute. We can't be in combat, the room can't be damaged, and the self-destruct sequence cannot already be initialized. Now, the base can be blown up a few different ways. That's like one of the ways of actually doing it. I won't continue on through here, but back over through here, rooms can also then start fires. Like the aliens can start fires in rooms. The base itself could actually just have a malfunction. And if all of the rooms end up, like if this number of fires are burning in the base, as soon as we reach that last one there, the base will then blow up and be destroyed. And similarly with the malfunctions, so when the number of malfunction reaches 100%, the base will be destroyed. And if that happens and you're in the base, you're basically dead. So you've got all these different aspects that are then sort of colliding in on top of what you're actually sort of trying to do. And so if we go back to that egg sample objective that we were just talking about, get the intruder's egg, we have to get that one from the nest. So if we go across to the nest, we know it's going to be in one of these number 1 areas. So we've got steal the egg or destroy the egg. So if we go to steal the egg, we need to have cards to do to actually steal it. We can't be in combat, and the nest cannot be destroyed. So that's how we steal an egg, and the result is we then get an intruder egg from that particular one through there. So that's actually how that would then work. And then the second bit was either to go back to this room here or to escape by one of these CSSs, and we can see there's 3 of them. So they're going to be somewhere. We'd have to hunt for one of these, and we can see there that we've got like different criteria then for entering these as well. So we don't know what items there will be. There'll possibly be items to search for in there. So enter the CSSC. It'll then say that you need to have cards to pay for it. So lock yourself in CSSC. There's three different escape pods somewhere in the base. All cards in your hand are discarded and your turn is skipped. If the CSSA is launched, the next event phase, you'll evacuate from the base. If not, you will receive 1 heavy wound. That should be C, because we're looking at that C through here. So if it's launched, we basically escape, but if not, we take a heavy wound. So it can be a bit tricky. We don't want to be wounded. We need to have cards to pay for it. We can't be in combat. The room cannot be damaged. The CSS has to be empty. So if you're playing a multiplayer game and somebody's already done what they needed to do and got to one of these CSSs and then sort of locked themselves in, you'd have to go somewhere else to try to find it. So it's only one player can actually get in there at a time. And you need to actually be in the room at the start of the round. You can't just walk into it and then just jump in. You have to start the round with the CSS. On launch, you evacuate from the facility, and so no launch is get one heavy wound. So if you're staying in there and the other CSSs are launching, you get wounded by staying in there. I'll talk about what all of this is. There's a lot to sort of cover in this particular instance through this side. Now we've got so this is actually telling us what we have to do with the objectives. So we need to find the nest, etc., etc. By having that one open, it's just giving us just telling us what to do on the actual map. The map is really quite useful, and just knowing where the actual information is with what you can do. Like decontamination procedure. Actually, it's not telling you what to do through here, but you can actually decontaminate yourself. There is contamination. There's slime, there's lava, and there's also contamination cards that impact what you then go and do. Now, there's a few other little things in here worth having a bit of a look at. Look, you've got the vent control room. There's a vent control room somewhere in through here, but these are actually vents that then, so you can sort of crawl through these, and the aliens also crawl through them as well. So you've got to be very, very careful. The aliens come in a number of different categories. Like you start off the game with one queen, so and you don't know where these are actually in the base. So you've got like a queen through here, so when generating the noise for a second time in the same corridor, so that can actually how you can spawn a queen. There's a 9% chance of spawning a queen. At the moment, we don't actually have any breeders. These things actually over time will then start to increase. We've got adults as well, so spawn adult, but generating noise again for the second time. So these are the sorts of things that you can then sort of, like these. This is the highest level alien, second, then the third. We don't have any breeders yet, but these will adapt and grow over time. We've got a spawn creeper, and then we've got like 4 larvae. Now the larvae will sort of start to generate up into adults, etc., etc. So it does sort of chop and change over time. There's also a chance that it won't spawn an intruder. So it's sort of essentially it just does nothing. So there is a chance that will actually happen. We have 5 eggs in the nest somewhere. They don't grow, but these guys do grow. So they're somewhere in the actual in the location. So that's sort of the backstory as to where we are and what we then have to go and try to do. So we're down in here. We have to try to find the nest initially, and then we have to try to get ourselves out of there if we're going to be doing that particular mission, the example mission. Let's get out of this one here. I don't think there's anything else we needed to really look at with this particular map. In fact, I'll just close that. So when we have a look at the actual what we've got through here, so the map is down through there. We also then have like a backpack which we can carry different things. What we have through here is a quest assault rifle. Get item assault rifle, electric weapon with 5 ammo that deals an additional point of damage if you are not in the repository. So we need to be in the repository to pick up this weapon. So we're not in the repository at this stage. By the way, we've started in the isolation room. If we just go back to the map again, the repository is up in here. So we'd need to sort of go up through this way to get to there, or head across into the elevator, go out to this way and then come through. So there's different ways of trying to get to this if we wanted to get that weapon. If we need to try to protect ourselves, that's probably the best thing we can actually go and do. So we have the ability to go and basically craft one of these guns in that particular room. I don't know if we need to actually do anything else with that. Again, if we have a look at the backpack, so this is your quest assault rifle. So just need to pay 1 card to get that one. So that's what the top is in through here, using an item cost of just 1 card. And we can't be in combat to then go and try to make this particular rifle. So if we do need to get protection, then that's actually in our backpack. We have the components ready to assemble. There is a crafting system in through here as well. So these are different things that we can actually craft. You can sort of see through that if you have the required components, so the 2 required components, you can create the selected item by paying 1 action card. And so we've got things, for example, like we need a few different things. 1 card plus, in this case, a health component and a chemical component. So you've got all these different things like enviro suits, etc., 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 with a limit of what you can actually then take from the repository with the crafting. So if you're playing a multiplayer game, there may be numerous people rushing to the repository to go and do the crafting. So anyway, you can only do that in that repository area. So that's the backpack. We're not carrying anything in our hands. We do actually have some duct tape as well, so we can sort of we can either have that in there or not. We'll just leave it empty for now. We don't need the duct tape. Back over through here, we have a few other little things. We've got like the menu. We've got the Nemesis wiki, which is actually okay. It's not great. It sort of just goes through the main goals, the objectives, etc. But I'll explain what we have. But I found that it didn't really give me enough information. It wasn't telling me enough stuff that was going on, and so it ended up. It had the detail there without really being helpful. If you know what I mean. Like, it was missing context, even though it actually did have information. So the next thing we have a look at as we go back through is we've got the character sheet back and through this side. If I go and double click that, it then opens up our character sheet. So it's we're in the isolation room. It's sort of telling us where we are. We're a survivor. This is our character. We've got no modifiers. The character status. Now, most characters in the game will only have 5 action cards to play per turn. We have 6 playing as a survivor, so we have 1 extra action card. So that's our ability. Our special ability is to have extra action cards. We know of 2 contingencies. Contingencies, I should explain what they actually are. Actually, no, I'll explain that in a minute. It's essentially, there's a corporation, very much like the Alien movies. There's an overriding corporation, and they're trying to decide what to do with this outbreak. Like, what will they do, basically? And they're the contingencies. They've got different choices that they can make, and you don't know what that will be unless you can figure out, like, the game already knows what that is, but you don't know until the game ends as what that contingency is. So it's just interesting the way that one can then play out. There's different things here that we don't have, like we don't have any. We're not covered in slime. We don't have a lava that's sort of infecting us. We've got no signal has been sent yet, and we have 3 knowledge. It says knowledge not active. I don't know why it says not active, because knowledge is important in the game, but it just says I'm not sure why it's got a not active. There's a lot in the game I just don't understand. The light items that we actually have, you can see number of class items in the backpack is 1. So the class item is that, like playing as a survivor, we've got that special rifle if we can get to the repository. We don't have any wounding yet. You can see 2 light wounds will give you a heavy wound. 3 heavy wounds will then kill your character. So you've got to be very, very careful. So as it said in the CSS, if the other 2 launch, that will then be 2 heavy wounds. If we've got a 3rd heavy wound, then we're playing with fire a little bit by going and hiding in there if we are wounded. So yeah, again, you've got to be careful with what you actually then end up doing. That's all good. We'll just close that one off. So that's the character. Now, the character we saw there before with the different action cards, and this is actually the main way that you play the game. You've got these different cards. If you can do something in a room, it will come up green on the side through here. So we can actually do demolition, and the action we can then do is to do damage room. So current room will be damaged, and at the moment the room it's got to start off not damaged. So that's something we could actually play an action if we wanted to damage this particular room for whatever reason. We definitely don't want to be doing that one. Also, if there was a closed door, I could actually then go and destroy the closed door. But the doors are actually open at this stage. We can sort of walk through the doors. And we don't have, because there's no closed door, so we can't actually do that one through there. Next one is rest, so we can scan contamination cards. I'll explain that as we get a little bit later in there. Distract an intruder if we had to. So we need to be in combat, and we need to have an item that we can then throw to distract the intruder, and we need a room with an open or destroyed door to sort of then be able to run through. The desperate attack, so this is like another one we can sort of try to do a special attack on an intruder. We can search a room if it's searchable. In this case, there's nothing to search for in this particular room. Again, we've got to be out of combat. That's what that little indicator means. So some of these we have to be in combat. So that's an in combat. This is whether we're in combat or not. We can still do this one in through here. There's another search in through that side as well, just to get another item. So we've got a couple of search cards at the back there. And so we've got 6. Most other characters start with only 5. And we can use the cards either to play what they do or to move through the actual ship. So I'll talk about that in just a minute. That's actually how we play the game, or not the ship, but the base. So we're trying to move through the base to find different things. So that's one thing we then need to do. Now the cards will be in, if you're playing the game, and this is where the game doesn't really explain this all that well, we've got our active action cards in the middle slot through here, which is what we're using. We have a discard pile here, which we've got no cards that we've discarded, and so we've got the cards that are current, but we also then have cards to draw. Now, the next round, we only have 4 left. When you play the game, there's only 10 cards for each group. So we know that next turn, if we play all of these cards, we know that we're going to get those 4, plus they're going to reshuffle the other cards that are back in through here, and then we're going to get another random couple of those other cards. So if we go to cards to draw through here, we can crawl through the vents if there was a vent in this particular room. It's going to cost us a card to do that as well, so move through vents. Obstinate, so wills to survive, or dress wounds, we can sort of then try to sort of fix ourselves up. Interruption, this is interesting, like if we were playing against real players, we can do different things where there's like a reaction to certain events, there's an interrupt, so this can only be played against other players. That's why it'd be cool if there was a way for the AI to play as players. And block interrupt. So and then we've got repairs in through here as well, like to repair an actual room if there was a problem with the room. Not that we can do that. That's stuff that will be coming. So anyway, that's the full deck of 10 cards that we have playing as the survivor. Survivor? Yes, survivor is the one that we're actually playing as. So that's sort of where we are. Now the game is played in different rounds, which we'll sort of see up through this side, where we've got 15 rounds to play. After each one, there's certain things that will happen, like there's definitely going to be a global event of power will drop if the backup power supply is inactive. So that one's definitely going to drop. And then after the next one, we have another global level of power supply again if the power supply is inactive. So we could go and turn that power supply on if we wanted to. We've got 13, then it'll go 13, then 12, then we've got one, no matter whether it's turned on or off, it's going to drop. There's another one, again, if it's inactive, it will then drop in through here. By the way, at 10, at 8, at 6, these are the launches for the, if you happen to be inside the CSS at that point in time, the CSS will then sort of, that will be when you get rescued. So that's a chance if you're locked in one for that to then sort of be the one that where it gets you to safety. So there's a lot going on in here. After we get to the very final one, where the last 2 of these things actually goes, there's a contingency. And the contingency is where the corporation then kicks back in and decides on what to do. Let's talk a little bit about what they are. So the contingencies are down through here. So we'll open up this contingency panel. Now we happen to know at the start of the game, playing a solo player game, we get to see 2 of these. So we can get, it's basically one of the contingencies was to kill everyone inside a CSS. So because the risk was too great. So if that was a contingency and we were hiding in a CSS at the end of the game, the contingency is for the corporation, kill everyone in a CSS. So what that means is that's not in play. We know that they're not going to kill anyone in the CSS, but it becomes a very, very viable action for us to then perform. In fact, if we can, chance of survival, if we can be in a CSS, there's a 100% chance we'll survive if we can hide inside one of those. Kill all without signal in isolation or bunker. So if we have one of these that didn't sort of come through, so kill everyone if there's no signal in the isolation or bunker rooms. Now, and we also have another one just to kill everyone in the isolation room. So these are the sorts of contingencies that the corporation will make. Now, the only ones available to them, the possible scenarios available to them are these in through here. So because we know these 2 ourselves, we know that we can actually hide in the CSS. So that becomes the objective for us. It's important to sort of look at this stuff. We can discover some of these other contingencies over time as well, to sort of see what does go on. There is one like to save everybody, kill all with knowledge less than 5 in the isolation or bunker. So getting our knowledge up can be quite important. With what we actually have through here. Now, normally if you're playing a multiplayer game, you only know one of them, and then you can still communicate with other players to then talk about, see if they want to share that with you to sort of see what the chances are. Now, you may decide to You may be the one that knows that Kill All in the CSS has not been played, and so you may decide, look, I really want to get away in that one, and you may sort of try to think, okay, well, look, I'll pretend that I've got the Kill All with knowledge less than 5 in the isolation or bunker, just so that people don't gravitate towards the CSSs if they need to when they're playing the game. That way you sort of can try to reserve one for yourself if you're wanting to sort of play in that sort of way. So this is where the multiplayer game, I think, would be quite interesting to actually sort of then go and play. We'll close that one off. So anyway, that's the contingencies that the corporation will then play at the end of the game. We then actually have the weaknesses. Now, the aliens themselves have different, they're just like the alien weaknesses in this case. And so these give us different advantages. Now, we happen to start playing as this character. We start with a knowledge level of 3. And so we can sort of see that this is one of the weaknesses of the aliens. If an adult intruder attacks you with a perched in dark, ignore that card's darkness effect. So that's actually, we know that about the aliens. This is just common knowledge. And so if you're playing the game, if you didn't have high enough knowledge, you wouldn't know that that's actually a weakness. We need to get to knowledge 5 to then get the next weakness, and then knowledge 8 to get the last weakness. So we'd have to then find things that improve our understanding of what the aliens are like through the course of the game. And there's different ways of getting these. So you must examine the corpse of a crew member, egg or night stalker carcass to discover alien weaknesses. So we'd have to sort of then find a lab and actually then go and sort of start to do that one through there. This one here, we need to do another one as well. So, yep, so corpse of a crew member, egg or night stalker. And so these are the ways that we would then have to do this one, but we just need to get our knowledge up to be able to then go and do that one. In fact, I think if we did that, I think that would then boost us up. I'm not sure. I haven't tried that particular run through yet. So there we are. Now, to move through the various rooms, to go through to an actual room in through here, if I click on this unknown room, and I'll just click on it. Actually, I won't do it just yet. I've got to play cards to be able to then get through it. In fact, I'll see which direction I want to go. What I want to do is I want to head up. Well, actually, I could head anywhere at this point in time. Maybe we go for the power supply. So let's go up this in this room here. This is confusing, the way that it sort of does, like, you know, I'm facing that wall there. If I come back across, so I want to go to the north, northwest. So if I go back into the actual room, it does get confusing. Like, I can sort of rotate this around so that the north is then firing up the front, and then we can sort of move up towards the northwest. So that's going to take me into this room here. The game really, really needs a mini map somewhere, but there's other things actually we can see through here. We can see, for example, that's our knowledge, that's our heavy item limit of 2. We've got 2 open hands essentially, and we're in darkness, so that just gives us a bit of a status report. Actually, I've done all of these. I've done the weaknesses. I didn't do the computer cards, so this actually allows us to do other things as well. Like if we can find a computer area, we can then sort of start to play some of these cards as well. So the different computer cards, we can sort of like one. Open or close one door. We can peek into a chosen CSS, or we can move the rover, essentially. So nothing that we need to be doing in this particular run through. We also then have the crafting menu, which I think I showed you before. So there we go. That's pretty much the user interface. And the last little thing is that there is down the bottom here a log file, and this is really, really important. I wish it was open by default, or at least had a way of having it open by default. So let's just go across. By the way, you can pass whenever you feel like it, but we want to keep on going through with as many action cards as we can. So let's go into this unknown room. Now when I go here, I can either cancel a move, or I can then start to play some of these cards. I play 1 card for a standard move, or 2 for a careful move. I'll do a standard move for these early ones. Now, rest, I'm not going to need that one, so I'm just going to play that card. So we're going to put that one into there, and then just go and pay that cost. We then go through. What then happens is they roll a dice. Now, there's different things that happen with these die rolls. And so room number 1, like you can see there's little entrances. If I just try to get this one to sort of show up what's going on through here, that's room number 2, or exit number 2. That's going to be number 4, back in through that side. 2, what have we got through there? 3 was the isolation room. So these are the numbers, and so when the die is rolled, those numbers will then come up. But there's also one where nothing much happens unless you've got slime on you, or there's some sort of potential encounter, which essentially puts noise in all of the different rooms. And so we've now got noise. If we just swing around, we've now got noise coming from this particular room, so we can hear that there's noise there. If we get a second noise there in that particular doorway, it means that we get attacked by an alien, or there's an encounter essentially with an alien. It may not be an attack, but in all likelihood it then will be. So initially, by coming in with only playing one card, it just means that I have I've got no control over where this noise will actually then arrive. If I play 2 cards, I can tell it where to put the noise. So we have to be careful. Now we've found a CSS. This is CSS-C that we've actually located. Now we can't enter that one. If we try to enter it, if I click on it, we can see there the room is not damaged. So this room looks like it's actually been damaged. We do have items we can search for here as well. It's not showing me that it's damaged. If I just go quickly, oh yes, here we go. Malfunction. This room is broken. You cannot use a room and the computer actions. You can repair a room with an action card or a toolbox. Now we don't actually have a toolbox, but we do have items over here. If we have a look and see what we've got, both of our searches are available to us. We can actually go and get an item. So let's go and do this search. So we can do the search here because we've got that card. So if I go and click on the item, it'll run across. And we have a choice in this room. It's a multicolour room. So you are trying to search multicoloured rooms. Please select a category that you would like to loot. In this case, I think I'm going to go with a technical item to see if we can actually get an item that will then allow us to repair the room. Let's go that way. And unfortunately we've got to put out the fire, or remove slime. Actually, that's useful. So a fire blanket or cables, where we can sort of load a weapon with like if a weapon sort of runs out of ammunition, we don't have a weapon at this stage, or open and close a door. Removing slime is a big one. So we want to actually go and get that one. Being covered in slime, if you do get slimed in the game, a bit like Ghostbusters, it hinders you quite a bit. And similarly, we may want to put out a fire. So let's go and grab this one and add that to our backpack. So we now actually have another item in our backpack. So if I click on backpack, we've now got the fire blanket, and we have this other. We've got the components there to build that weapon if we need to. So. Now, I don't know if I can actually do another one. No, there's only one item that we could actually get from there. It'll say, see how it's got 0 times? If there was multiple items, it would tell us how many items are actually in there. Anyway, guys, I've actually run out of time, so I'm going to leave it here. That just gives you a bit of a rundown as to how to play the game. We'll be able to play a lot faster from this point forward. But unfortunately, this is actually malfunctioning. We don't have any way to repair it. I don't think we've got a repair. No, we've got nothing in here to repair. What about in the other cards? Repairs, so I can repair a room. So I can come back with this card at another time, but we'll probably be finding another one. We still have to find the nest anyway. Let's just quickly zip around. Actually, I'll do that in the next episode. We'll start to have a bit of a look around. But I do find the orientation awkward in this, to be honest. I really wish there was a mini map off to the side here, just a very, very small mini map, just so you got your bearings. Thanks for watching. I will catch you in the next episode.